Enzo Maresca looks set to be announced as the next head coach at Chelsea Football Club. According to reports, the club have been granted permission by Leicester City to speak to the Italian and hope to be able to unveil him on a 5-year deal by the end of the week. Maresca will be the fourth different full time manager at the club since the Blueco ownership takeover in May 2022. If we include caretakers Bruno Salter and Frank Lampard, the 44-year-old will be the sixth man in charge of the team in the last 2 years. He will also become the seventh Italian manager in the history of the club. Among the previous six, Claudio Ranieri is the only one not to have won at least one trophy at Stamford Bridge. A former player, Maresca was last active in Serie B with Hellas Verona in 2017. He spent his career being quite the journeyman, winning a total of 8 trophies in Italy and Spain. After spending his formative years in his home country with AC Milan and Cagliari, Maresca took the decision to move to the West Midlands in England as an 18-year-old, joining West Bromwich Albion in 1998. At the Hawthorns, he shared a dressing room and also carpooled with a man Chelsea fans know all too well, Graham Potter. After a year and a half in the second division of English football, Maresca returned to Italy with Juventus in a transfer worth £4.3 million, which was, at the time, a record sale for Albion. In Turin, he rubbed shoulders with the likes of Zinedine Zidane, Alessandro Del Piero, Pavel Nedved, Edgar Davids, Antonio Conte, David Trezeguet, and Gianluigi Buffon, among other greats of the game. Amidst such elite company, the 20-year-old Maresca only made 52 appearances for the old lady in all competitions over 4 years. During this time, he also spent a season each on loan at Bologna and Piacenza. Despite his limited playing time, the midfielder tasted the winning feeling for the first time in his career at the Stadio delle Alpi, lifting both the Scudetto title and the Coppa Italia. He also worked under two of the greatest Italian managers of all time at Juventus, in Carlo Ancelotti and Marcello Lippi. In 2004, he moved south to Florence, spending a season at Fiorentina. The following year, he moved to Sevilla in Spain. In 4 years at the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, Maresca lifted 5 trophies, including back to back UEFA Cups in 2006 and 2007. He scored twice in the former and was named man of the match, as Sevilla trounced Middlesbrough, captained on the day by Gareth Southgate, by 4 goals to nil. A 1 year expedition to Greece at Olympiakos was followed by a return to La Liga with Malaga, where Maresca played under former Premier League winning manager Manuel Pellegrini. He spent his last 5 years of his playing career in Italy before announcing his retirement at the age of 37. In an interview with the coach's voice, the Italian stated how Pep Guardiola's Barcelona side in their record breaking 08-09 season formed a big inspiration behind his desire to study and analyze the game. I shall paste the link to the interview in the description. After retirement as a player in 2017 and short spells as part of the coaching staff at Ascoli and West Ham United, Maresca got the opportunity to work under Guardiola when he was appointed as the manager of Manchester City's elite development squad in 2020. In his first season, he guided the City youngsters to their maiden Premier League 2 title, with his squad including current Chelsea players Cole Palmer and Romeo Lavia. His first full time job followed in 2021 with Serie B side Parma. Under turbulent circumstances at the club, Maresca was dismissed after just 14 games in charge at the Ennio Tardini. He returned to Manchester the following season, this time as Guardiola's assistant manager, as City won a historic treble. The Italian stock was high, and recently relegated Leicester City saw him as the man to quickly lead them back to the Premier League. In a record breaking 2023-24 season in the Championship, Maresca's Leicester earned automatic promotion as champions. A Guardiola disciple through and through, Maresca's tactical style bears several resemblances to that of the Spaniard. Firstly, let's take a look at the fundamentals followed by Leicester City last season. Later, we'll take a look at how this setup fits in with the personnel at Chelsea. The Foxes dominated the ball in the championship, averaging 62.2% possession throughout the season, second only to Russell Martin's Southampton. They also scored the second highest number of goals behind Ipswich Town with 89 and had the best defense in the league, conceding less than a goal a game. Maresca used a variety of lineups through the season, usually based on the opposition. Whether it was a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1, or a 3-2-4-1, the principles on and off the ball remained broadly the same. While in possession, which was for most periods, Ricardo Pereira inverted into midfield from right back to form a double pivot alongside Harry Winks. This is, of course, similar to how Guardiola and Mikel Arteta set up at City and Arsenal, respectively. But it is also what Mauricio Pochettino did in his final few games in charge at Chelsea, with Marc Cucurella inverting into midfield from left back. The major intent here is to create numerical advantages in the first two phases of build up, with Maresca placing a lot of importance on progressing through the center of the pitch. As we see in this infographic by Who Scored, 30% of Leicester's attacks came through the middle of the pitch, the highest of any team in the league last season. If one of the wingers here tucks in to make an extra man in midfield, this leaves space for the wide sided centre backs to drive forward with the ball. Both Wout Fass and James Justin were very comfortable doing this. A 3-2 base also provides cover in the central areas in defensive transitions, with the opposition unable to counterattack through the middle and forced to play the ball wide, allowing the rest of the team to organize. Leicester defended with a high line and looked to counterpress whenever they lost the ball. In the masterclass series by the coach's voice, Maresca explains in detail how his teams look to create central overloads against sides that defend in a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1, and a 4-4-2. The link to that video is in the description below. Against teams that look to press high, the goalkeeper often got involved in the build up, effectively seeing Leicester play out with a four-man back line. In a move reminiscent to Joe Hart being ousted by Guardiola for Claudio Bravo, Danny Ward, who was Leicester's first choice goalkeeper in the Premier League last season, didn't play a single game in any competition under Maresca. He was replaced by Mads Hermansen, a summer signing from Danish side Brøndby. The two number eights were very crucial for Leicester, as they occupied areas high up the pitch. Wilfred Ndidi was deployed in a much more dynamic role than his usual one as a defensive midfielder. With 4 goals and 5 assists, the Nigerian put up his best attacking numbers since arriving at the King Power Stadium in 2016. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, the more advanced of the two attacking midfielders, had the season of his life with 12 goals and 14 assists in the league. The Englishman won both the club's Men's Player of the Year and Players Player of the Year awards for the 2023-24 campaign. Remind you of someone? Well, more on that in a little bit. Maresca encouraged both these players to consistently make runs into the box in the half spaces, similar to what Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne do at Man City. The wingers stayed high and wide, and usually found themselves one on one with their opposition fullbacks. Abdul Fattah, on loan from Sporting Lisbon in Portugal, was an absolute revelation, with the Ghanaian teenager contributing 6 goals and 13 assists in the league. On the other flank, Steffi Mavididi put up 12 goals and 6 assists. When either Fatau or Mavididi took on their marker and looked to cut the ball back from the touchline, the centre forward, the two midfielders, and the opposite winger looked to flood the box. At the age of 36, Jamie Vardy had a remarkable season up front. The striker, along with Mark Albrighton, is one of only two remaining members of Leicester's Premier League winning team of 2016. Despite starting only 18 games in the league, Vardy scored 18 goals and set up two others, achieving a goals plus assist number of 1.02 per 90. With constant movement, Leicester looked to drag players out of position and create space for others to run into. There were several games in which they had to remain extremely patient while trying to break teams down, and often had long periods of possession without any kind of penetration. The Leicester players with the highest number of completed passes last season were all members of their back six, including Hermanson. The idea was to bait the opposition players to leave their predefined zones and press them higher, enabling the Foxes to play through. The principles that Maresca follows, like positional play, patient possession heavy build up, and constant movement and interchangeability across the pitch, are all ones that will work better with better players. Positional play in the most concise way possible involves not having more than two players in a vertical zone or more than three players in a horizontal zone on the pitch. At Stamford Bridge, at least on paper, it looks like Maresca has a plethora of options to choose from. I'm not going to be talking about possible signings in this video, as we'll get to those as and when they happen. I'm only going to take a look at what is at our disposal with the current squad. Let's start with the goalkeeper, who does play an important role in Maresca's system. Rode Petrovic was the first choice in between the posts during the second half of last season for Chelsea, but the Croatian wasn't all that involved in the first phase of play. He averaged 28.7 passes per 90 in the Premier League, compared to Hermanson's 42 passes per 90 for Leicester. Robert Sanchez, with a number of 31.4, was still closer to Petrovic than Hermanson, but I get a feeling that if we don't sign a new goalkeeper, the Spaniard could once again be in contention to become first choice. As we talked about earlier, Chelsea did play with a 3-2-5 shape and build up towards the end of last season. For the next campaign, we should have a lot of our players back from injury. Cucurella inverts into midfield from left back, leaving a back three of Reece James, Wesley Fofana, and Levi Colwill. Now, each of these players spent significant portions of the last campaign in the medical room, but fit the mold really well, on paper at least. Maresca likes his team to keep a high line, and there's a good balance of pace and physicality here. James and Colwell, the wide centre backs, both have the ability to carry the ball forward into these areas if the spaces open up. All three of them are also assured on the ball and can wait for the right moment to play a pass in between the lines. The other choices here are Malo Gusto, Axel Disasi, Benoit Badiashile, Alfie Gilchrist, and maybe even Ben Chilwell, or maybe not. Chilwell's future role in the team is something that'll be interesting to see. Trevor Chalobah is a really solid option here as well, as the right sided centre back. It is unclear, however, whether the defender will remain at the club over the summer. Alongside Cucurella in the double pivot, Moises Caicedo seems like the obvious option, but Maresca may look to try something different. If Chelsea dominate possession as they are expected to, this player will have plenty of touches. He will spend a lot of time just picking up the ball, passing between centre backs, and changing the direction of attacks. Winks, who is not primarily a defensive minded player, occupied this role for Leicester last season, and I think this could be well suited to Enzo Fernandez's skill set. The Argentine is at his best as a deep line playmaker with defensive cover around him, and could finally come into his own in a Chelsea shirt under the new manager. Caicedo hence moves further ahead as an 8, playing in a role similar to that of Ndidi at Leicester last season. The Ecuadorian has played as a box to box midfielder before, most notably with his national team. He had to wait until the last day of the season just gone by to score his first goal for the club, but finding the back of the net could be something we see with more regularity from him under Maresca. Of course, Conor Gallagher is someone that looks tailor made for this position, but like Shaloba, his future at the club is also in question at the moment. Hopefully, things get sorted out on that end, and we can keep both the Cobham graduates. In the Dewsbury Hall position, we have Cole Palmer. The star man from last season will enjoy himself under Maresca's management and could play in a couple of different roles. But in this attacking midfield position, with the rest of the team working to create space for him to receive the ball, I fully expect Palmer to thrive and put up the numbers once again. There are a lot of ways in which we can go with this midfield, depending on the players available for selection as well as the opposition. If playing Enzo as the number 6 leaves us vulnerable defensively, we also have Romeo Lavia, a player we've hardly seen in the blue shirt since his arrival from Southampton last summer. Fernandes could either be on the bench in this case or move further forward, with Palmer then playing as the right winger. With Kani Chukwuemeka and Cesare Casadei also in the mix, there are a lot of combinations that we can go with. Casadei, who was on loan at Leicester under Maresca for the first half of last season, made 25 appearances for the Foxes in all competitions, often coming off the bench as the box to box midfielder. He scored 3 times. In the forward areas as well, we have different players with different strengths. The wingers will have a lot of situations where they're one on one with the opposition fullbacks. Mikhailo Mudryk, Raheem Sterling, and Noni Madueke are players that look to run with the ball and take the defender on, while Palmer and Christopher Nkunku drift more into the central areas. Again, there's a lot of room for flexibility here. Against teams defending very deep, the right sided centre back can bomb forward to create the extra man in attack. Think Kyle Walker at Man City and Ben White at Arsenal. James and Gusto are both robust and technical enough to occupy this role. Nicholas Jackson can be sure to once again have chances aplenty falling to him, and with improved finishing, he'll get a lot of goals as well. Also, the Senegalese is excellent at drawing centre backs out with his movement, both to come short or to run in behind. Chelsea are going to be playing a lot of football next season, with our participation in the Europa Conference League set to take us to far off towns on Thursday nights. We will face a variety of opponents and will need to try different things to come up with solutions. I'm sure there will be a signing or two at the very least, along with some outgoings as well. But overall, there are definitely a lot of things to be excited about with the current squad under Maresca. On the other hand, the Italian has never been the first team coach at a top club before, and it remains to be seen how he handles that. With a 5-year contract coming his way though, barring an absolute debacle, Maresca is going to be here for the foreseeable future. The owners and the fans need to show patience and give him time to instill his philosophy into the squad. In a way, we can't afford for this to go wrong. As someone that really doesn't want to get used to my club not playing in the Champions League, I sincerely hope that after Potter and Pochettino, Todd Bowley and co. are third time lucky.